Good afternoon and welcome to Del Mar College Corporate Services weekly Facebook Live event. My name is W. Scott Green. I am a training consultant and program manager with our customized training team. And at Del Mar College Corporate Services, our mission is to bring first-class training events that impact your organization's strategic goals. We work with clients from all industries, nonprofits, small and large businesses, and even government agencies. So if your team is in need of any type of training, I encourage you to reach out to us. We'll have our contact information available throughout and at the end of this presentation. So I appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. I see some folks are already commenting. Take a moment while you're here, and I encourage you to drop a note in the comments. Let us know where you are viewing from, and if you enjoyed that music as we entered, because that was getting me pumped up. I was feeling good hearing that music, so maybe we'll play some of that at the end as well. So again, feel free to leave comments and let us know where you're watching from. Hi, Akita. I see Belinda. I see Patricia. And there's Sandra. Thank you so much for tuning in. So today, I'm going to provide a few simple tips on how to improve your communication process. With all that's going on in the world, the way we communicate is rapidly changing. We were so used to doing things face-to-face and in person. Now we are often finding ourselves more and more utilizing email, chat, and virtual platforms. So effective communication is something we can always strive to improve on. I like to make the joke sometimes that, my wife and I, we're coming on 16 years of marriage. We've been together for about 18 years, and about half of our communication involves yelling the word "what" from the other room. So as much as we've been working on it, we are still not experts. And the same thing happens in every organization across the world. It's something that we can always work to improve on. So today, I'm just going to provide a few simple steps that I believe that if you take these steps into consideration, they can enhance your communication to make it more effective. All right, are we ready to go? All right. Let me know if we're ready to go by dropping something in the comments to give me a thumbs up or a high five. Hi, Alicia. Hi, Belinda. She says what? Belinda says what? I think that's a communication joke. All right. So we're going to start off with step one. All right. And step one, as the sender of a message, the person that's delivering the communication, you need to be aware of the noise that's around you. Now, often when we think of noise, we think of the noise that's common to most people. So it could be an ambulance driving by. It could be the noise caused by the physical environment. It could be traffic. It could be just the acoustics or layout of a room. Sometimes the noise could be if you're working in an industrial environment, the types of machinery that's going on. So what you want to do is make sure that if you have an important message that you're trying to deliver, that you take into consideration the physical noise that could impede that communication. So for instance, if I have an important message to deliver on safety, I probably don't want to do it in an environment that's going to be hard to hear that message. So keep those things in mind. So the physical factors, be aware of the noise. Other noise that you want to take into consideration, and it's noise that we probably don't often think about, are physiological noise or physiological factors. For instance, we're coming up on the afternoon. Some of us are probably getting a little sleepy after lunch. If I have an important presentation to deliver, I want to make sure that my energy level is up so that my point and my message comes across well. If I'm not feeling well, maybe if I'm taking some cold medicine or something like that, I can put myself in some sort of fog that's going to impede my communication. So again, physical noise, physiological noise, and lastly, the psychological noise that can impact your communication. So for instance, if you're trying to participate in a meeting with coworkers, or you're having a one-on-one communication with a client, but you're worried about what's going on back home, or you have what's going on in the news in your head, you got to take those things into consideration because they can be distracting thoughts. Or what if you have an issue with the person that you're communicating with? We don't always think about that, and that can change the way we send our message, or if we decide to send the message at all. And what you have to consider when you're working in a professional environment is if I have a challenge with a coworker or a teammate and I can't communicate with that person, it's not only our relationship that's being affected, it could be our client's relationship, it could be the patient, or it could be a customer that we're dealing with that's going to be the person that that is challenged because we can't communicate. So again, physical factors, noise, be aware of those things. Physiological factors, your physical health, and psychological factors. What kind of attention can you bring to the communication? What distracting thoughts are you having? And what type of relationship do you have with the person that you're sending the message to? The other step that the sender is responsible for is encoding your message. It is important that we deliver a message to where the receiver of that message is at. We so often get caught up in the way that we want to deliver in our style of communication that we don't take into consideration what the receiver is going through. So you have to make sure that anytime you deliver some important information, that you tailor your message to the audience or the receiver. And I'll give you an example. If I am a mechanic and I'm trying to explain how an engine works, I might have to use some more layman's terms and not a lot of mechanical jargon or unfamiliar terminology that my customer is not going to understand. If I'm a physician or a doctor and I'm trying to explain a diagnosis to a patient, I might have to tone that terminology down a little bit so that my patient and even their family members can understand what I'm talking about. So be careful how you deliver that message. Make sure it's tailored to the receiver. In any type of message you deliver, you always want to clarify what the expectations are for that message. Do you want people to just use that information for informational awareness? Do you want people to actually respond or take action? Make sure that you clarify your expectations. Never assume that someone understands exactly what you want them to do with that information. So always make sure you clarify the expectations of your message. And a good way to do that is request feedback. Take the time to open up that communication and say, hey, listen, if you're unfamiliar, if you're not sure what I'm asking, please respond and let me know if you have any questions. Most people don't want to do that. They don't want to respond because for the fear that they're going to sound that they just don't understand something. And so if you give them that opportunity to respond and you open up that communication, it keeps that feedback going. I'm also going to drop a couple different acronyms for you. And these sometimes help with tailoring your message to people and making your message a little bit more clear. The first acronym is BLUF, B-L-U-F, and that stands for bottom line up front. We live in a day and age where we're being inundated with a ton of email, a ton of text messages, and so sometimes we don't always have the time to read every single detail of every message that we get. So it's important that if you have an email with an important topic, that at the first paragraph, you explain the bottom line up front. Explain exactly what the expectations are and what you want those people to get out of your message. Another acronym I'd like to throw your way is OHIO. Yes, Ohio, O-H-I-O. So just spelled just like the state. Ohio can also stand for only handle it once. So when you're sending a message, make sure you put enough information in there that there's not a lot of back and forth. Try to provide all the details up front so that you can only handle that message once. Another one I want you to take into consideration too is TLDR. TLDR. And that is too long, didn't read. If you're sending a message to someone and it looks like a novel or an encyclopedia, more than likely your audience isn't going to pay attention to it. So make sure that you give just what they need to hear. The bottom line up front, enough information so that you can only handle it once, but make sure it's not TLDR, too long, didn't read. And another acronym I want to throw your way is WAIT, W-A-I-T. Before you send a message, before you speak up, before you add your 2 cents, you want to ask yourself, why am I talking? Or why am I typing? So if you're sending an email out, is this email necessary? Is this message, is there a strong point to it? Or is it just because you want to, communicate with your friends through email? So keep in mind those 4 acronyms: BLUF, bottom line up front; OHIO, only handle it once; TLDR, too long, didn't read; or WAIT, why am I typing? Or why am I talking? So as the sender, those are your responsibilities. Now, as the receiver, you're not let off the hook either. You have your own responsibilities. And just like the sender, you need to be aware of the noise in the environment as well. Are you trying to intently listen to a conversation and you know that you cannot hear it because of the noise, the acoustics, the traffic, whatever that case may be? You need to decode that message as well. You also need to consider those physiological factors for yourself. Can I really hear this message? Am I feeling well? What's my physical health like? Is their message getting across to me? And then lastly, the same thing, the psychological factors that go into that. As a receiver, your job too is to increase your level of attention, get rid of those distracting thoughts, and consider your attitude about the message or the receiver. Again, if two people are having strife and they're having some conflict, communication is going to be stifled. So it's important to make sure that we don't disrupt our service to our customers, our clients, our patients, whoever that may be, because we have some communication issues between ourselves. Just like the sender has to encode a message, the receiver needs to decode the message. And so what does that mean? Some of us have probably gotten those emails and we just glance over it real quick and respond. It's important to make sure that we read through carefully, that we review what has been said or what has been read. We also want to make sure that we are listening or reading for understanding. Too often we want to respond without even paying attention to what the person is telling us or sending us. So make sure that we take the time to listen or read for understanding. And I'm seeing some comments. Alicia Cavasso says, filtering emotion from the message is important. I agree with you 100%. And Akita, she's saying TLDR. I like that one. Make it as short and simple as possible. Amen. So those are great comments. Thank you so much. Also, when it comes to decoding the message, a receiver must reflect and plan your response. One of the great things about email and digital messaging is it gives us a little bit more time to consider how we want to respond to things. So don't feel like that you have to fire back right away. Take a moment and reflect and plan your response, especially if it's a challenging communication. If it's a message that's on a tough subject, you can take that opportunity to breathe and think about what you want to say. Now, for both the sender and the receiver, this next step is important for both folks. And this is seeking feedback and clarification. One of the biggest mistakes we can make in communication is not requesting feedback or clarification. And it takes a little bit of humiliation to do this. Often we don't want to ask questions because we don't want to feel like we're the person that wasn't paying attention or that we're out of the loop on something. But it's important to make sure that you ask for feedback and then you ask for clarification. Request more information if needed. And the sender, you need to make sure that you are accurately delivering and receiving. Make sure that your message is accurately delivered and received and understood as you intended it to be. Because if not, you just wasted your time sending out a message. If the receiver is not responding or taking the action that you wish, that probably means you didn't send the message in the way it needed to be sent. Some other things that you want to take into consideration is practice active listening. We're all born with 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Sometimes it's more important to just keep the mouth shut and listen. Listen to what the person's saying, read what the person is writing, take an opportunity to really reflect on what's being delivered to you. Not everything needs a response. So practice active listening. Sometimes if you're not sure, you just ask, you paraphrase it, and just to make sure that you are receiving the information the way it is intended. Another issue that we want to be concerned about is being aware of nonverbal communication. Now, as we are using more and more digital communication, we're not using face-to-face talks or anything like that, we are counting more on the words more than ever. So if you look at this graph that we're showing up, 55% of what a person understands through communication comes from body language. 38% comes from tone, and 7% comes from the words. So in a sense, we learn more about a message from everything other than what's actually being said. So keep that in mind when you are delivering a message and you're sending it through email, your words matter. So you want to make sure you're using the right words. Be aware of using too many exclamation points or capital letters or anything like that that can give the person the wrong idea that you're angry or upset. We don't often have that opportunity to use the body language that we want to use where people can read our intent. When we do use body language, when we are able to use the tone in the body language, those things are important as well. One of the things that I'm guilty of personally is I like to sit with my arms folded, and that can be considered standoffish. It could be considered authoritative, and it's just a way that I'm comfortable sitting. But someone who doesn't know me that well might get the wrong response, that might get the wrong idea about how I'm responding to their communication. So if you don't mind, let's take a second. And Alicia Cavasso says, this is the hardest. Yeah, absolutely. Patricia says, good advice. Wait, especially when we are tired, better response the next day. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like I said, with the body language, take a moment and give me an emoji that you would use to display body language. Maybe a thumbs up or a smile or a crying one. Yeah, you can read a lot from someone's body language if you see them crying. And sometimes we use emojis to replace that body language, don't we? Especially in this digital age that we're in. Oh, I like that, Michelle. Yes, have someone else proofread is also an option and gives the sender a chance to reflect. Been there, done that. Yes, ma'am, so have I. And I see Belinda is adding, and now more than ever in our virtual world, words are important when we can't always see the language if the cameras are turned off. Absolutely, absolutely, indeed, indeed. That's a great point. So a lot of things to take into consideration. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to review those summary. I'm going to summarize those steps that we talked about. Again, for the sender, beware of the noise, the physical noise, the psychological noise, the physiological noise. Be aware of the noise that can impact your communication. Also for the sender, encode your message. Send it in a way that your receiver is going to understand and make sure it's clear enough for them to know what the expectations are from that message. Your receiver, your job as well is to beware of the noise. Be aware of how you're feeling, what your thoughts are on the subject, or what your relationship is like with the messenger. Also, receivers, you have that responsibility of decoding that message. You can't just sit there and go, hey, I didn't understand it and not respond. So make sure you take the time to decode the message so that you understand what's expected of you. And then for both, the feedback and clarification. For both the sender and receiver, feedback and clarification is important. Seek it until we both have an understanding of what the message was intended to be and how the receiver was supposed to respond to it. And again, for everybody, practice active listening. It's one of the most important things we can do, especially in this day and age when we have so many different things that we're concerned about. Sometimes we just need to listen to people, and that's probably the best way that we can support them. And I see that Veronica says that she's a good proofreader. We love good proofreaders, especially in a professional environment. We need that extra set of eyes over our shoulder to make sure that we're delivering the message the way we need it to. And then lastly, beware of nonverbal communication. We don't get to use that as often as we have in the past, so your words are really important. Even though they're just words on the screen, people can take them in different directions. So make sure you're careful with how you write and how you type out your messages. So let's see, any other comments? Alicia says she's got a smiley face. Thank you, Alicia, I appreciate that. And so that about wraps up this session. Again, it's just some quick tips on how to increase your communication, make it a little bit more effective. I'd also like to drop a plug for our Recharge Coastal Bend programs that we have coming up. If you are an organization that has been affected by COVID-19, maybe you had to release some workers, maybe you had to shut down for a little while, we have several different classes and programs coming up that are geared towards you. They can be free of charge if you are eligible for a grant that we have available. And so these 4 are the hospitality course, and those are geared towards restaurants, hotels, retail, any other organization that's in the hospitality sector. We have a management accelerator course coming up, and that management accelerator course is for individuals and even organizations that maybe you have that line of supervisory employees that maybe they want some management training, and your organization can benefit from that. We have a career resilience course coming up, and that is geared towards someone that maybe you were laid off, maybe you were furloughed, and you want to pivot your career a little bit. So I would go ahead and take advantage of this class, this career resilience course. And then lastly, we have an HR toolkit class coming up. And this is super important, especially for a lot of our small businesses. As we know, a lot of our small businesses, the owner is also the inventory person, is also the operations person, and in many cases, they perform all the HR roles as well. So this HR kit is a quick workshop geared towards small businesses to help them prepare and recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. So I hope these tips are of benefit and you can use them as you work to improve your communication habits. And if you're interested in receiving training for your organization on this topic or any other topic, please reach out to our department at Del Mar College Corporate Services. You can contact us by email at corporate@delmar.edu or by phone at 361-883-WORK, and that's 361-883-9675. Thank you for tuning in and have a great day.